Hi, Matt.
Jamie, have you had a good week?
I've had a very busy week, but it's been good.
Me too.
I can almost smell the mince pies.
I've had 3 mince pies already today.
Have you really?
Yeah, I really have.
Goodness.
The Interplanetary Podcast. The exploration of space for the benefit of all mankind. Your hosts here in London, Matthew Russell and Jamie Franklin.
Matt, this is podcast 12. Alas, it's quite a sad episode to start with. But we should be sad / let's celebrate the life of a great man.
Yeah, so John Glenn, who I would consider the most famous American astronaut after Buzz Aldrin. And
absolutely.
He is literally the all-American superhero, isn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, wow, what a biography. Where'd you start?
Yeah. Where do you start? Well, I guess we start he was born in, Cambridge, Ohio, in 1921. So, yes, he's the ripe old age of 95.
Amazing.
95. Yeah, unbelievable.
Good innings, that.
Yeah, insanely good innings. But really, when you look at his life, you could do a film trilogy about it. Even if he didn't have the space thing, his life's incredible. Just as a pilot,
politician, friend of the Kennedys. The list goes on.
Yeah, I mean, he ran as a senator.
Yeah,
oldest person ever to go into space.
Didn't he come out of retirement and go back at the age of 77?
He did, and there was quite a bit of controversy because there was a few astronauts who were sort of saying, well, this is dangerous having an old man on this flight. In their words, it's not a airliner, the shuttle. It's a dangerous machine that requires you to do all sorts of things like climb up ladders to get yourself out of this thing. So they were sort of saying that maybe he's just too old for this and that the science didn't really justify it. And John Glenn got pretty upset by that and hit back pretty emphatically that no, actually, he was the right person for the job, that the science had been looked at in great detail, and that he was going for a very specific reason, and he was confident that if they'd bothered reading the science report, that a totally justified mission.
Of course it was. I mean, it's just insane. You look back, I mean, 52 combat missions in World War II and 90 in Korea and 218 hours logged in space.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone could say that. That's not a bad CV, is it?
No, and of course, he'd kind of done a lot of his test piloting things and all of that just as the space race had been sparked by the launch of Sputnik. So it was the launch of Sputnik, and the Americans suddenly thought, we really got to get our act in gear, and that's when they set up NASA, of course. And then NASA said, right, here is the agenda. We've got to get a human up into space. So they said, well, let's find the people. And I guess that they sort of looked at people that they thought, well, we need people who've got a bunch of flight experience, who've made it through extremely dangerous situations and have managed to think quick enough that they survived.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's... And so there was obviously lots and lots of very rigorous training.
Because we have to remember how dangerous it was back then to take... It was probably more than 50-50 in terms of, is your rocket going to blow up? And they had that same attitude as when we interviewed Al Worden. It's like, well, you know what? It might blow up, but if we don't do this, then we're not going to evolve. So I'm going to be the one to do this. I mean, incredible bravery.
Oh, absolutely. His bravery is unparalleled, actually. And he was one of the very first people that comforted the family members of the shuttle disaster. And sort of said, and his justification was, what I'm doing for humanity and what I'm doing for science actually outweighs my own personal safety. And I think that's an incredible attitude.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Says, these people do put their lives on the line, and that was his tribute to those people.
And people are continuing to have attitudes like that who go into space. So I think he was one of those people that kind of paved the way of an attitude, if you like.
Absolutely. I mean, he really is the true American hero, or any country's hero. Really, he's a true hero. He does everything that humanity would expect of a hero.
Absolutely, completely agreed. I was reading a quote by him earlier, and it said something along as, when I was hurtling through space at a terrifying rate of speed, the only thing that I could think about was that every single part of my rocket was bought from the lowest bidder.
It's funny that quote ends up in lots and lots of different places. And attributed to different people, but yes, he was the first person to kind of really get that whole sitting on top of a rocket that's about to take off, and you realise that you're sitting on a bomb, and it has been built by the lowest bidder. Yeah, it's ace, isn't it? One of my favourite quotes was one that I tweeted about earlier, which was essentially when he was a child, he used to force himself to climb a tree at the bottom of his garden.
Right.
And he used to climb to the very, literally to the highest branch he could get to, and it scared him. But he used to do it all the time.
Yeah.
Even though when he got to the top, he would look down and go, "I'm not doing this again." But he'd keep doing it because it scared him. He knew that he could overcome it.
Yeah. Right.
And that was his kind of philosophy. It's like, that is brilliant. So he's a classic example of someone that is always pushing himself out of his comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And just look at what he's managed to achieve with his life.
Absolutely. Agreed. Incredible.
The standout achievements, obviously, he's the first American astronaut to orbit the Earth.
Yeah.
So second person after Yuri Gagarin, of course.
Yeah.
It was the Americans were actually designing a space plane at that point to sort of get people up, but it became such a rush. It was like, no, we're just sticking you on a capsule and we're just blasting you on one of these huge rockets instead, an Atlas. So it's like, whoa, off you go. I mean, when you sit in one of those early capsules, which I have done, there was one in Prague that I sat in, which was the same as Yuri Gagarin's.
Yeah.
And you sit in something like that, and then you think of the size of the rocket that would have been underneath you, and just how terrifying. You think, that is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
And then he was a senator for a very long time.
Yeah.
That the 9,400 votes that he cast, he said, each had contributed in a small or large measure to the painstaking march of our democracy. I could not ask for anything more rewarding. And that, that just goes to show how seriously he took public service.
Yeah.
It was at one point touted that he might even run for the presidency itself.
Really?
What a great president he would have been.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of course, going into space at the age of 77 is... I can't imagine that's going to be beaten anytime soon.
No, I really can't. I mean, that is insane. When you picture an old man at 77, I think a lot of people will just imagine somebody sat back in a chair, slippers on, not really kind of heading up to the space station.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
amazing.
Absolutely brilliant.
I just got a quote here, Matt, I'd like to read. Mm-hmm. He said, "The most important thing we can do is inspire young minds and to advance the kind of science, math and technology education that will help youngsters take us to the next phase of space travel." I mean, it just goes on and on, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. Well, R.I.P. John Glenn, and thank you very much for everything you've done for the space race. You were the space race.
Exactly.
So our thoughts go out to the family.
Incredible. Not to be forgotten.
Yep. Godspeed, John Glenn. Guess what I'm watching right at the moment, Jamie?
Oh, you're not watching them again, are you? I told you, you'll go blind.
I am watching the launch that's happening right now of...
Wait, this isn't Vega, is it?
No. This is the Kounotori 6 supply ship on its way up to the International Space Station.
Amazing.
And of course, this has become an extra critical launch because obviously the Soyuz Progress MSO4 last week, which we happened to be talking about just after that, failed to get to the International Space Station. So this has become a much more critical mission. And actually, I believe this is the first Japanese launch that's happened since our podcast launched.
Interesting.
So I'm quite excited about it. It's been quite interesting watching it. Now, so far...
Do you think they're doing a podcast on saying the same thing?
Yeah, well, I'm watching the live YouTube feed.
Yeah.
And it's just come up the H-2B F6 launch with HTV-6 on board was successful.
Yes.
So there we go. So that's on its way to the International Space Station.
Well, bon voyage.
And it is an unbelievably busy week since we last talked, Jamie.
What's been going on?
So we had a Vega launch, which you just alluded to, which was, again, successful. It's very similar to the Rocket, and it had its maiden flight in 2012. So it's quite a new space launch vehicle.
Yeah,
and it's made of 4 stages, 3 of which are solid, and the 4th stage is a liquid-fueled rocket, the Avon. A lot of it's made in Belgium. This thing,
okay,
and was carrying the Gokturk 1, which was a Turkish military spy satellite, and that's now 435 miles above the Earth.
It's probably about 700 kilometres in that.
Yeah, it's about that.
I'm just guessing, guys. I'm not reading a thing.
No. So we had the Europeans in action. Straight after that, we had the Indians in action.
Yes.
So the ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organisation, managed to launch.
You can do it, Matt.
The satellite itself is called the Resourcesat 24. The Resourcesat 24. That was on the workhorse of the ISRO, the PSLV C-36.
God, say again.
Yeah, so that which with the PSLV C-36, which kind of a polar space launch vehicle, I think. But and that had 6 solid strap-on motors, which I believe was obviously what the C-36 comes from. But you can never tell with this nomenclature of rocket design. I mean, the Long March all over the shop. I've got no idea what the heck that means.
Exactly.
So, that was successful.
Excellent news. Good work, India.
And then straight after that one, Jamie, we had a Delta IV. Now, knowing Delta IV's track record, how do you think it fared? Do you think it failed or succeeded?
Oh, I don't want to bring the podcast down, but I'm going to say it failed.
No, Delta
Just
IV
kidding.
Still has 100% success record.
Absolutely smashing it, the Delta.
Absolutely smashing it.
Or not smashing it, as the case may be.
United Launch Alliance brought out a website where you can go on, and it's called rocketbuilder.com, I believe, and you click on it, and you can build your own launcher, and it tells you how much it's going to cost.
I might go on it right now.
Yeah, it's really good. So, and you choose the weight of your satellite. Then you have to decide, what size fairing that's going to fit in.
Yeah.
What kind of orbit that you're going to go into. Whether you're going to launch East Coast or West Coast, and that will affect the orbit that it goes in and the payload size that you can actually deliver. And then it will sort of automatically give you how many boosters you need.
So I love that.
Yeah. Oh yes. And now we've just had the successful Japanese launch of the Kounotori 6, the HTV 6, that's on its way to the International Space Station.
Awesome.
How very exciting. The last time that we had an HTV on its way to the International Space Station was the 24th of August 2015.
Oh yeah.
So over a year ago. And this is only the 6th of these Japanese supplies. The very first one flew on my birthday, back in 2009, on the 10th of September.
That's your birthday, Matt.
Thanks. And now we've got some future launches. So on December the 11th, which isn't too far away, is it? That's going to happen this week between now and the next podcast.
Well, it's 2 days away.
Yeah, we've got the Long March 3B.
Oh, glory.
Which is a 3-stage rocket with 4 strap-on liquid boosters. That should be good. Always nice to see yet another Chinese launch. The Chinese, of course, smashing it out the park right now.
They really are. It's home runs all the way.
It is. Now, one I'm really excited about is on December the 12th, we have a Pegasus XL.
Oh, what?
Yeah, which is carrying a global navigation satellite, the CYGNSS. which is the NASA Cyclone Global Navigation Satellite System.
Very nice.
But the Pegasus, have you seen a picture of the Pegasus?
No, not yet. I don't think so.
It looks more like a cruise missile.
Really?
It's like a missile with wings on.
Blimey.
It's an air-launched rocket. So it's orbital ATKs. It's basically designed for sort of flying things up into low Earth orbit.
Wow, I've just Googled it. That's amazing.
But again, this will be the first time that we'll see it on this podcast for sure. In fact, I think the last time it flew, as far as I can make out, was 2013.
Okay.
And that flew from Vandenberg and was a successful launch of the SMEX IRIS satellite.
Well, it's good to have it back.
Yeah, so I'm actually really looking forward to that, and I wonder how they're going to do the footage. I hope they have like sort of other planes flying around.
I was going to say plane cam. Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be This is going to be amazing. So it's released from 40,000 feet up, and its first stage has wings and a tail to provide lift and attitude control while it's in the atmosphere. Now, Jamie.
Oh, yeah?
Now we dealt with all the launches. I tell you what was one of the most exciting stories for me this week.
Go on.
Was that the capsule, the Soyuz capsule that...
yes.
Peake's
cap.
Tim Peake returned down to Earth.
Yeah.
Has been purchased by the Science Museum and will be on display in the London Science Museum as of early 2017.
That is awesome news.
I'm so excited by that because our friend Vic Southgate, who we met at New Scientist live, and who is part of World Space Week.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah.
And she also won the Patrick Moore Medal the other day at the British Interplanetary Society, which I was there at their Christmas dinner.
Incredible. Congratulations.
But she tweeted on the very day that Tim Peake came down, as she actually tweeted, "We should get this capsule down to the Science Museum," and I quickly waded in and said, "This is the best idea ever." So I'm amazed. I'm immensely chuffed that has happened. I think that's
absolutely
really cool.
Incredible. It's had a bit of a clean up, but you'll still see the scorch marks. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. Do you know what? When I saw the cosmonauts exhibition at the Science Museum, maybe a year or two ago, one of the things that I absolutely loved the most were the scorched capsules that had come back. They look incredible, and when you sort of look inside them through the window, you go, "Wow, it must be so scary coming back down as a big fireball." In fact, in the words of John Glenn, "That was some fireball, boy." Because John Glenn, apparently, when he looked out the window of his returning capsule, he genuinely thought his heat shield had gone because he could see big balls of flames like flashing past his window.
My goodness
so
me.
I think he just thought, well, I'm obviously a goner, I'm just going to enjoy the ride. But
absolutely.
He mentioned
made it.
Yeah, he made it and mentioned it to the rescue crew. There was some fireball, boy. So that's pretty cool. So I'm really, really chuffed. I think that is awesome that's going to be in the Science Museum, and I cannot wait to go see it.
Absolutely.
So we should maybe do a little live podcast from there.
We should do.
Maybe we should get Vix down and she can talk us through it.
That would be cool. That would be a cool idea.
Oh no! Let's talk about.
What have you forgotten?
Talk about one last little thing about this little story that I knew you would like.
Yeah.
I spotted this one. I think it's really cool. Is chips, little integrated transistors and stuff.
Yeah.
That fix themselves. So our favourite breakthrough starshot and these kind of nanocraft that go off for interstellar travel.
Yeah.
One of the problems is you'll have this little wafer-thin interstellar craft, and you'll get loads of interstellar radiation and, the solar wind, all these sort of things, which is, tiny particles going at ridiculously high speeds, etc., smashing into these wafer-thin spacecraft. They're very, very unlikely to survive that. I noticed an article in IEEE Spectrum. The Korean Institute of Science and Technology and NASA are developing spacecraft from single silicon chips that actually have self-healing properties.
What?
Yeah, so...
So in layman's terms, how will that work?
They're going to try and design transistors and chips and things that can self-heal. heal.
Awesome.
So on-chip healing has been around for many, many years.
Okay.
According to Jin Woo Han, a member of the NASA team.
Legend.
Milestones include the revelation in the 1990s by a team at the National Microelectronics Research Centre in Cork, Ireland, that heating could drive the recovery of radiation sensors, and far more recently, heat-induced healing of flash memory by Macronix of Taiwan. The critical addition made now, Han says, is the most comprehensive analysis on radiation damage. So the study uses the Korean Institute's experimental gate-all-round nanowire transistor. And so it's a really interesting article to go and have a look at. So
this is really amazing because, I mean, it's so expensive, space travel, that if you can get stuff like this happening, then that could save millions and millions to projects. I'm endorsing it, Matt. I'm endorsing it. You know what? I'm endorsing it right now. I don't care about the repercussions. It's got my backing.
The development of wafer-thin spacecraft actually relies on this technology of being able to get these things to self-repair. Otherwise, it's a complete waste of time. But it turns out there's quite a few different paths that you can go down that actually mean that these chips do self-repair, which is very, very interesting, isn't it? It's something
that really is interesting.
Sounds very, very science fiction, but it actually turns out is already science fact that these things are already being made. I mean, give us a tweet. Oh, actually, I'm gonna put a question out to listeners because I think this is really important. Because in our podcast roundup that's going to be in a couple of episodes soon, a roundup of 2016.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that I want to nail down, and I had this conversation with Vix at the BIS Christmas party the other day, is how many launches were there from America, China, Japan, Europe, etc., and put them into a table, because this year it looks like America are going to have more space launches than Russia for the first time.
Right.
Now, but I want to decide where to put the Europeanized Soyuz that fly from French Kourou, because they fly as sort of on European missions. But still, it's Russian rockets with Russian launch crew. Do we count them as a European launch or a Russian launch? Or maybe do we give them half a point each?
I would say half a point each, personally.
Okay,
that's what I'm thinking, because we don't want to upset anyone on this podcast.
No, so that's my question for listeners. Please write in at matt@interplanetary.org.uk and let me know your feelings, or just tweet me or Facebook me, however you feel comfortable. You can even Snapchat me.
People know him. People know him.
Yeah. So, and don't forget, listeners, please subscribe and rate us on iTunes and Stitcher and Acast, etc., because that really helps us to raise our profile. That'd be fantastic.
If you could also rate the singing of Matt's background, as you can hear just now.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's great. No, it's a great addition. Like I say, make sure you ask them about the jingle. Oh, speaking of which, Matt, I've got a new intro if you want to hear it.
Oh right, go on.
The Interplanetary Podcast, putting the rock back in rocket.
Oh yeah, I see what you've done.
What do you think?
It could work. It could work. Let's try it. Okay. No, let's try it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's do it together.
Okay.
You do the first line, and then I'll join in.
The Interplanetary Podcast, putting the rock back in rocket. Slightly out of sync, but you know what? That's all right.
The Interplanetary Podcast, putting the rock back in rocket.
Yes.
That's good. I like it. Putting the ace back in space, putting the rock back in rocket.
This is such a dad podcast, isn't it?
Oh, we've totally dadded it.
If only I had children. What's my excuse? Can I just borrow one of yours, Matt?
I think your excuse is that you're a lover, not a fighter.
That is true, actually. Yeah. I'm just trying to bring peace to the space travel. I mean, is that such a big deal?
No, it's no big deal. I love that. Remember, the podcast's aim is space and space travel for the good of all mankind.
And womenkind.
Well, when I say man, obviously, I mean it isn't.
Just kidding, Matt. I know you're a feminist.
You got me all stressed that somehow we hadn't been addressing our audience. I'd been looking at the stats on that. We're a bit skew whiff on men.
Yeah.
So men listening out there, if you can get your wives to listen too, that'd be great.
That would be good.
Or your daughters. In fact, get your daughters listening, because we need to see more women in space,
They're the
more
future.
women doing science, more women doing STEM subjects. So let's make that an aim as well. Thank you very much.
That is a good. aim.
That's me being goody two shoes for the day.
Yeah, check you out.
Yeah.
Apple for the teacher.
Thank you.
All right, great. Well, guys, we'll see you for lucky number 13 next week.
Excellent. Au revoir, everyone. Bye bye.